his car, a Citroën, I think it was, slammed the door and put the bundle of keys in his trouser pocket. He was a figure worth considering. Actually, I had been planning to visit a museum, since my professional business had been dealt with and since I knew nobody in this town, and it was pure chance that he happened to catch my attention. I don't know what it was, a movement of the head, as though it itched. He lit a cigarette. I saw this just as I was about to light a cigarette myself. I didn't do so. I followed him, still without having seen his face, turning off to the right, throwing away my cigarette, without hesitation and without haste. This was the Sorbonne district, in the morning. As though he had felt something, he went back to his car to make sure he really had locked the doors, looking for his key ring in the wrong pocket. Meanwhile, I pretended to be reading a poster, and as I did so, as though to distinguish myself from him, I lit a pipe. I was already afraid he might get into the car and drive off while I was pretending to read the poster, a TNT program. But then I heard the car door slam, turned round and saw him walking away, so that I was able to follow him. I observed his walk, his clothes, his movements. The only striking thing was the way he paddled with his arms. He was evidently in a hurry. I followed him from block to block, in the direction of the Seine, even if it was only because I had nothing else to do in this city. He was now carrying a leather briefcase after, as I recalled, having originally got out of the car without a briefcase. Pushed aside by people streaming towards me along the pavement, I lost sight of him and was about to give up again, but other people pushed me forward. Everyone wanted to get across the street before the light turned red. Without wanting to, I went on. I know for sure that nothing is going to come of it. Sooner or later, everyone I set my eyes on will disappear into a doorway or suddenly beckon a taxi, and by the time I've spotted a free taxi myself, it's always too late. Then there's nothing I can do but tell the driver to take me back to my hotel and stretch out on the bed with my clothes and shoes on, exhausted by my senseless walks. It's an obsession of mine. Anyhow, no sooner had I given up, actually glad not to have to continue the pursuit, than I recognized him again by the way he paddled with his arms. Although it was morning, he was wearing a dark evening suit, as though he had come from the opera. Perhaps this was what linked me with the unknown man, the memory of a morning in a dark evening suit, when I came from a woman. He hadn't felt my pursuit yet, or he felt it no longer. Incidentally, he was hatless like myself. Although he was in a hurry, he didn't get along any faster than I did, even though I couldn't afford to attract attention by the same haste, but had to walk at the same speed as everyone else. For this reason, he did get a little ahead of me from block to block, especially as I was ready to give up the fruitless pursuit. But at every red light, we landed in the same crowd. I still hadn't seen his face. Just as I drew level with him once, taking advantage of a gap in the crush, he looked to the other side. Once he stopped in front of a shop window so that I could see his face reflected, but I didn't speak to him. His face wasn't worth considering. I went into the next bar and had a belated breakfast. The next one I set eyes on had a skin such as only Americans have. Milk with freckles, a soapy skin. I followed him nevertheless. I guess his age from behind as 35, a fine age. I had just booked my return flight and was actually on the point of spending the remaining few hours wandering around in Central Park. Sorry, he said, because he had bumped into me, and I turned round but only saw him from the back. He was wearing a slate gray overcoat. I was eager to find out where he would lead me. At times he seemed not to know himself. He hesitated and seemed to have lost something in this Manhattan. The longer we walked, the more congenial I found him. I wondered what he lived on, what kind of work he did, what sort of place he lived in, what he had already experienced in his life and what he had not, what he was thinking about as he walked along among millions of other people, and how he saw himself. I saw his fair head above the slate.